Hey guys, Cyberchick here. Today we're going to provide an in-depth presentation introducing the archaics paradigm as it relates to the Phoenix phenomenon. The founder of Archaix Research, specializing in the Phoenix phenomenon, is Jason Breshears. Archaic stands for Advanced Research of Chronological History of Artificial Intelligence X. As of this date, Jason has authored 19 books, 10 that are published, and 5 manuscripts in PDF format, in which tens of thousands have been downloaded, and several articles. His research bibliography includes well over 1,357 nonfiction books during a 19-year period alone, and approximately 250,000 pages from rare works as old as 400 years, including translations of texts dating as far back as 4,000 years. Jason is one of the only researchers in the world who specializes in ancient chronological systems, focusing on worldwide antiquities from 4309 BCE to 522 CE. Many of his historical discoveries cannot be found in any other works. My goal in this presentation is to show you that the Phoenix phenomenon is not just another theory, but a fact that is set in stone and an event that will irrefutably happen in the month of May of the year 2040. In this presentation, I will show you the evidence supporting this event by sharing the Archaix research, including detailed charts, a chronology of historical events and artwork taken directly from Jason Breshears' published books, YouTube videos, and the Archaix website. All of this material is based entirely on verifiable historical records and factual data. You will discover that America became a captured nation in 1902 and see compelling evidence of the Phoenix found in excavations, archaeological data, and ancient texts. You'll also learn how the Phoenix cycles in the years of 1902 and 2040 are encoded within the mathematical measurements of the Great Pyramid. In addition, I will reveal the hidden message of the Phoenix cycle concealed within Masonic symbols, ancient and historical artwork, and the prophecies of Nostradamus and Mother Shipton. You will also see that the elite have long been aware of these events and have been censoring and concealed this knowledge from humanity for many millennia. I'm going to show you that we exist within a controlled holosphere, wherein past civilizations have been deliberately buried in cataclysms that occurred with such perfect mathematical precision that we boldly announce the next worldwide civilization reset happening in May 2040. Now, I realize I've just made an incredibly bold statement by quoting Jason, so understand I don't do so lightly. I've taken the time to research, verify, and believe in the Archaix paradigm and the truths it reveals. Before we begin, a brief disclaimer that when I reference someone as Jewish or Christian, it is never meant to offend. My intention is to highlight those who claim these titles, yet serve hidden agendas under the veil of religion, and not the sincere followers of either faith. The Archaix community's sole intention is nothing more than delivering the truth. And finally, I'd like to ask you to put anything aside you currently believe to be true and to join me on this historical journey of truth, prophecy, and spiritual growth. So, what is the phoenix? Well, the 33rd degree Freemason author Manly Hall said in his book, amongst the ancients, a fabulous bird called the phoenix is described by early writers. In size and shape, it resembles the eagle. At its death, the body of the phoenix opens and the newborn phoenix emerges. It is regarded as representing immortality and resurrection, for it was common to refer to one who had been accepted into the temples as a man twice born or reborn. Wisdom confers a new life, and those who become wise are born again. This extraordinary bird, known as Planet Phoenix, was recorded throughout history as appearing every 138 years. Each appearance brought mud floods, liquefaction, red rains and dust, the moon turning blood red, earthquakes, the darkening of the sun, and the collapse or reset of civilizations. Entire populations vanished and new eras began. These cataclysms always birth the renewal of new technologies, new materials, and the cause of new governments to rise from the ashes of the old. The Phoenix phenomenon is the origin of all ancient calendars and the foundation of our current Anno Domini system, a timeline the Catholic Church created to conceal the Phoenix chronology itself. The cover of the Freemason book on the right depicts the symbol of the double headed phoenix, with the Masonic 33, which is the highest degree in Freemasonry for a human. It symbolizes the highest degree of Masonic enlightenment. Beneath it, the Latin phrase ordo ab chao, or order out of chaos, signifies rebirth through destruction, the deliberate erasure and rewriting of history after each reset. The final ribbon reads Deus mum Caius, which translates as God in my right, or in other words, I do this for God, and because it is my right. These statements represent what the elite believe to be their divine authority and personal entitlement. Shown in this chart drawn by Jason Breshears, demonstrating a simple 6,000-year chronology of history, depicts the 138-year periodicity of the Phoenix phenomenon. Each of the small rectangles are actual dates that form a rectilinear pattern showing the 138-year cycle of the Phoenix phenomenon that are documented in the historical record beginning in the year 4309 BC. Every 552 years, which is 138 times 4, known as a Phoenix cycle, is a time period in which mass destruction took place. And every 1,656 years, which is 552 times 3, major cataclysmic destructions occurred across the world that caused civilizations to collapse, also known as resets. Rashi, the most influential Jewish Bible commentator of the Middle Ages, said that there are 1,656 years between cataclysms. Indeed, there are 1,656 years between the Adam and Eve reset and the Great Flood of Noah, as shown by the red lines on the chart. Due to time limits, this presentation will not include every 138-year Phoenix event recorded in history, but will instead focus on key dates, major global cataclysms, and historical data proving the existence of this phenomena. As seen on the chart, The year 2040 aligns perfectly with the 138-year Phoenix cycle, falling 138 years before the year 2178, the predicted collapse of the simulacron. The elite know this. This is why they're building underground facilities, as are celebrities and tech individuals like Mark Zuckerberg with his Hawaii complex, and Jeff Bezos, who invested $42 million in a gigantic mechanical clock designed to last 10,000 years. In a 2011 Wired interview, Bezos said, "Over the lifetime of this clock, the United States won't exist. Civilizations will rise and fall, and new systems of government will emerge. You can't imagine the world we're trying to get this clock to pass through. All the mainstream media distractions, the wars, politics, media chaos, including the assassination headlines, are all designed to divide and distract us while the elite prepare underground." According to the Archaix research, the oldest record of a Phoenix event dates back to 4309 BC, found in Gnostic texts describing the Phoenix as the keeper of the calendar. During that time, the Phoenix appeared and ended a 930-year-old Sumerian civilization. It was said to act as a witness against the archons, the lords of time or manipulators of human events, a theme repeated throughout ancient writings. The word Gnostic itself means knowledge. For the Gnostics, salvation came through knowledge, not religion or faith. Their teachings reflected dualism. For example, the balance between light and dark, and good and evil, and heaven and hell. Few realize that Jesus himself taught Gnostic principles and stated that man only needs to examine his inner spark to find the knowledge needed to free himself from his material body and reach God. The year 3895 BC, recognized as year one of the ancient Anno Mundi calendar and the first year of the pre-flood world, marks a turning point in ancient chronology. According to chronologist Stephen Jones, this was the year of a cataclysm so devastating that the survivors believed that they were witnessing a new heaven and a new earth. It also marked the beginning of what the book of Genesis refers to as the vapor canopy period. Now, for those of you who are new to Archaix, you might be wondering, what exactly is a vapor canopy? A vapor canopy was a vast stratospheric layer of water vapor that enveloped the Earth and formed part of its original atmosphere from the second day of creation, according to Genesis 1:6-8, until it collapsed in the 40 days of torrential rain during the Great Flood. According to the Archaix research, and found in historical records, ancient manuscripts, and other preserved data, indicate that the appearance of the Phoenix phenomenon in 3895 BC triggered lithospheric displacement through a 30-degree pole shift, creating what many perceived as a new heaven and a new earth. It forced the Anuna, described as gods in ancient Sumerian text, to retreat underground for protection. These same beings, according to the records, would later reemerge throughout history to introduce advanced technologies. In many ancient writings, the phoenix was described as a flaming sword in the sky. As mentioned, 3895 BC marks the first year of the vapor canopy period of Genesis. This canopy remained intact for several centuries before it eventually dissipated. Jason further explains that underground facilities were already built and walled enclosures or paradises existed, at least from the perspective of those living on the surface. This suggests that the ancient people knew the phoenix was coming and had prepared for it. He also notes that humans were later banished from these underground sanctuaries and forced to live on the surface. A story echoed in the biblical account of Cain's banishment. This symbolizes how an individual or faction criminal from below was exiled to the surface as punishment. And finally, 3895 BC stands as the foundation year, the point of origin from which all other calendrical systems trace their timelines. 1,656 years after 3895 BC is 2239 BC, or 1656 Anno Mundi, known as the Great Flood. According to the historical record, the Great Flood was described in ancient texts from many different parts of the world, all pointing to the same global event. Accounts speak of massive volcanism, continental quakes, mud floods, red rain, and cosmic dust fallout, a temporary polar shift, and the darkening of the sun for a long time period. Now, in 2239 BC, it was known as the day the vapor canopy collapsed, and when it did, it unleashed catastrophic flooding. Vapor, after all, is simply water in its gaseous state. 2239 BC was also remembered as the day the sky fell and the birth of the sun. You might recall the old European folktale from the 1800s of Henny Penny, the little chicken who ran around crying, "The sky is falling," a story that appears to echo memories of this event. That same year marks the beginning of the Paleolithic Age, when civilizations began worshiping the sun, and the end of the pre-flood world, an era destroyed by the phoenix. In ancient and historical texts, the phoenix was also referred to as the Apin or Vulcan. And according to Dr. Barry Wormkessel, who studied such events, the deluge was foretold to several figures across civilizations. Noah from the Hebrew texts, King Manu, the first man in Hindu tradition, and Utnapishtim, known from the Epic of Gilgamesh in ancient Mesopotamia and Sumerian records. In ancient China, it was written that a new star appeared in the sky, signaling the birth of the Shah dynasty, regarding as China's first mythological dynasty. Modern studies of Yellow River rock formations have confirmed evidence of a great flood, with nearby excavations revealing entombed villages and volcanic debris, which are powerful proof of this cataclysm. Hundreds of ancient cities around the world were said to have been swallowed by the sea, from Mesopotamia to Nigeria to China, and stories of a massive global flood appear in nearly every culture's mythology and sacred record. And finally, the Book of Jasher, a text mentioned in the Hebrew Bible, also references the phoenix in connection with this exact time period. On the chart drawn by Jason Breshears, the red arrows point to the year 2239 BC. A vapor canopy formed between 3895 BC and 2239 BC, shown by the circle on the left between these two dates. They are separated by 1,656 years, a number divisible by 138, meaning the Phoenix event occurred 12 times during that span of history. But 2239 BC was different. It was the Great Flood, a cataclysm that took place across the entire world. According to the historical record, Jason explained that it was only after the flood and the collapse of the vapor canopy in 2239 BC that anyone began to be called a Titan. The term was used by the grandchildren born after the Great Flood to describe those who lived before it. Several texts written about vapor canopies describe how animals, reptiles, amphibians, megafauna, marsupials, and plants all grew to enormous sizes during that era. Fossilized human footprints measuring 17 to 18 inches have also been found, suggesting that humans were much larger at that time. To the ancient world, the existence of giants was considered common knowledge, supported by the writings once stored in the Library of Alexandria, which tragically burned in 48 BC, destroying over 700,000 ancient books. In 1902, studies recorded that ambient radiation from a volcanic eruption in Saint Pierre, Martinique, caused two men to grow between 2 and 2.5 inches taller, as documented by scientists who were there after the eruption of Mount Pelée. Volcanic activity has been shown to release ambient radiation into the atmosphere, which is proven to stimulate accelerated growth in both humans and nature. Next is 1687 BC, the year of the Archaean deluge in Greek mythology. According to the Archaix research, in 1687 BC, there was a flood cataclysm documented to have red mud, red rain, red dust all over the world. In addition, the sun darkened, the moon turned red, and massive earthquakes and flooding occurred, including reports of a gigantic object that was seen in the sky. Dr. Barry Wormkessel named the Phoenix event Vulcan. In the Bible, Jacob foreknew of the darkening of the sun. The people of Tiwanaku in South America predicted the coming of the sun disaster. Both the Heliolithic Maritime Empire and the Sons of the Sun dynasties all collapsed. India experienced 25 years of darkness. Famine was present all throughout the Mediterranean and ancient Americas. The Minoan Linear Age began. The Book of Jasher, the Bamboo Book of China, Marcus Varro Augustine, and Julius Africanus had all written about these events. The abandoned story of Easter Islands and the Avellino eruption that buried the cities around Mount Vesuvius happened in this year. Jason stated that over 3,000 ancient Bronze Age cities and ports were destroyed by what was described as the sudden appearance of a dragon that was said to have devoured the sun and set the moon on fire. Stephen Jones dated the above events to the year 1687 BCE, not knowing they were Phoenix related. In the Book of Jasher, it is stated that the earth shook from its place, and the sun darkened, and all these kings were terrified, and a great consternation seized them. And finally, in 1687 BC, it is the year of the origin of the 7-year biblical famine in the story of Exodus. The image on the right is a crop of a relief from the ruins of Nineveh, the capital of the Neo-Assyrian Empire, which is modern-day Iraq. It's called the Chaos Monster and Sun God, dated the 17th century BCE. It depicts the creation and flood story of Archaix, a Babylonian epic of the Great Flood and the ancient version of Noah's Ark. The relief shows the god to whom the temple was dedicated, driving out the evil spirit who causes mass destruction. The monster looks like a dragon with a body and tail covered in feathers, and talons and wings resembling a giant bird. According to the Archaix data, in the year 1273 BC, Atreus, king of Mycenae in Greek mythology, predicted the sun reversing its course, also described as its darkening, and won the kingship of the Achaeans. Written in the historical record in that year, the sky turned red and the sun darkened. Socrates, Archilochus, Seneca, Thyestes, Euripides, and Electra all mention these events. This phenomena is also found in the cuneiform tablets in the annals of King Marcellus II of the Hittites. To the right is the Hittite rock sanctuary dated 1230 BC, located at Yizlikaya, Turkey, which is considered a lunisolar calendar that predicts the moon phase and the time of the solar year. Lunar solar calendars are designed to monitor the position of the sun in the Earth's sky. This section of stone, which is a very small part of a much larger procession that surrounds the entire sanctuary, depicts in strict order of the highest Hittite gods. The supreme deities are at the center, which is due north in the celestial circumpolar zone, an area of the sky where the stars appear to circle around the celestial pole and never set below the horizon, so they're always visible every day of the year. All the gods, including the entire procession not shown, all march to this center. The entire sanctuary not only symbolizes the cosmos, but is symbolic for the order that arose after chaos was overcome during creation. The Hittite cosmos consists of the earth upon which the people lived, the sky above them, and the netherworld below. Characteristics of the cosmos in this relief are its cycles of renewal and of temporary death, followed by rebirth, symbolized by the phoenix, much like the Egyptians and Babylonians believed. The phoenix, based on its location on this relief, is depicted as a superior god. From 859 BC, shown is the black obelisk of Shalmaneser III, where the phoenix symbol appears on an Assyrian relief. It commemorates the Assyrians' expectation of seeing the phoenix in that year. The relief is also well known for portraying the Israelite King Jehu in an act of subservience before the Assyrian monarch. In 583 BC, the Archaix data shows us that Thales of Miletus predicted the darkening of the sun in the month of May, 2 years before it actually happened. A new calendar at Delphi began in Greece, and a new calendar in the Japanese imperial period of the Sons of the Sun began. In August of 2024, Using AI, a team of researchers successfully decoded the 4,000-year-old writings of ancient Babylonian cuneiform tablets, such as the one shown on the right, that had remained untranslated for over a century. Published in the Journal of Cuneiform Studies, the newly deciphered texts show that the Babylonians saw lunar eclipses not just as celestial events, but as ominous signs of death and destruction. One tablet notes that an eclipse in the morning watch means the end of a dynasty. This raises an important question. Why does this theme repeat throughout ancient history? Moving on to 31 BC, the historical record notes several phenomena that happened in this year. The Archaix research shows us that a giant torch was recorded as being seen in the sky for many days over Europe and mostly over Greece, which was also documented throughout history and described as the sky dragon, or a giant wolf that eats the sun or eats the moon, but in this time period was reported as a torch in the sky. There were earthquakes in Asia Minor and Lydia, an Iron Age kingdom in Western Asia Minor, including earthquakes in many other cities in Ionia and Mysia and Anatolia. Sky phenomenon was recorded as being seen during the Han Dynasty in China. The ruins in America are considered the worst in history, especially in Guatemala. The state of the Yucatan in Mexico was also in ruins, and Jason states that 31 BC was the final date found on all old Mecha steels. A fiery sky dragon was described as seen flying over Egypt. This year is the rise of Rome's first emperor, Augustus Caesar. And a Macedonian record indicates the existence of a continental quake from the Aegean to Judea in the month of May during the Battle of Actium. And during the Battle of Actium, it was the worst earthquake that ever afflicted Judea, Jerusalem, and all of Olympia in Greece, where several powerful and advanced Mediterranean civilizations collapsed. Next, we'll explore 522 AD to uncover the historical events so catastrophic that they led to the creation of the Anno Domini calendar. The Archaix research shows us the Dark Ages began in Europe. In Britain, during King Acta of Kent's reign, a strange object appeared in the sky, also recorded in the Welsh annals. Kent traditions describe a star attached to a light ray ending in a flaming dragon. Earthquakes devastated Olympia, Greece. Sky dragons appeared over Britain, described as a celestial war of monsters. Red rain, like drops of blood, fell, followed by famine. The ancient Moche culture of Peru vanished, described as an archaeological enigma. And this was the year the BC and AD Anno Domini calendar was created. Jason's research shows that 522 AD was the first time in recorded history that the Phoenix and Nemesis X object appeared in the sky at the same time, causing mass destruction. The Nemesis X was often described as the second sky dragon in historical texts. As Jason stated countless times, 522 AD was not the creation of the Anno Domini calendar. Rather, the calendar was established to cover up the Phoenix and Nemesis X phenomena that occurred in that year. Numerous sky phenomena and the Great Darkness occurred over Byzantium, including the Justinian plagues, deliberately misstated in modern records to obscure the Phoenix and Nemesis X events. According to Jason, the plague was estimated to kill between 13 to 26% of the world's population, resulting in mass migrations lasting 4 months in Constantinople alone. Almost 75% of villages and parts of Sweden were abandoned in these years. There was estimated to be between 5,000 and 16,000 deaths per day. He stated the men at city gates stopped counting the corpses at 230,000 when they realized that innumerable people had died. The Anglo-Saxon chronicles, often used by historians, recorded eclipses and other events in 538 and 540 AD. However, computer analysis shows that no eclipses occurred in those years. They actually happened in 522 AD, suggesting the church altered the dates when copying the chronicles. And during the Inquisitions, countless books were confiscated and individuals deemed heretics, along with texts opposing church views, were burned, and the few surviving works were translated under papal control. The Church does not endorse the ancient Book of Jasher, Colburn Bible, Dutch or Lind manuscript, the writings of Mother Shipton, or the prophecies of Nostradamus. Yet all of these sources share one thing. They contain historical and prophetic accounts of the Phoenix phenomenon. From these images, you can sense the seat of power and imagine the influence and control that the papacy had over the Roman Empire and continues today. Like the Egyptians, most pagans believed in reincarnation, viewing death as a transition of the soul. The cycles of birth, life, and death carried spiritual meanings, and nature was considered sacred. Obelisks represent the Benben, the primordial mounds that emerged from the waters of chaos as a result of a cataclysm, and where a tomb, depicted as a bird, stood at creation. The bird symbolizes life, death, and rebirth, and the connection between the earth and the divine. Pyramids atop obelisks represent the Benben stone in Bennu. Originally erected in Egypt, the obelisk currently standing in St. Peter's Square was brought to Rome in 37 AD. The Bennu was carved into the Benben stone and is linked to the sun god Ra and the concept of rebirth and cosmic energy. The original stone was lost and its components are said to be not of this earth. The image shown is located in a museum in Cairo, Egypt, showing the Bennu as the phoenix bird. The famous Egyptian Nectanebo lions are displayed on the Vatican grounds and symbolize protection and the defeat of chaos. And how many people know that the Vatican includes an ancient Egyptian museum housing numerous sculptures and artifacts across 9 separate rooms? One must ask the question, if these ideas didn't truly exist in nature, then why would the papacy adopt so many Egyptian symbols in which they so intently demonized and destroyed throughout history? We'll now explore how Jason's research shows how the Anno Domini calendar was used to hide the countless Phoenix events that occurred in 522 AD. Jason stated, and I do quote, We all know about the Inquisitions and that the Roman papacy had rewritten entire histories. Scholars have discovered numerous false statements, pseudo histories, and forged documents, even before the infamous On the Donation of Constantine by Lorenzo Valla, in which the church was proven to have stolen authority and wealth by claiming that Constantine willed the empire at his death. A document was provided to the European nobility that was later proven to be a forgery based on the Latin Vulgate scripture writings that did not exist in Constantine's time. Countless other documents in the historical record were found as forgeries from the writings of Eusebius and Augustine, as well as other church fathers. Lynn Hunt, the author of Measuring Time, Making History. She's a historian at UCLA. She published that a 6th century monk named Dionysius Exiguus in 524 AD created a new calendar to determine when Easter would be celebrated. He set it to begin in 532 AD, but backdated it to 9 BC. This was odd because 532 AD wasn't yet a year that existed on any calendar. Remember, this was done in 524 AD, yet it was imposed by Rome. Jason Breshears points out that the ancient divine years followed a 552-year cycle. Rome, in the 11th century, shortened this to a 532-year cycle called the Paschal, and hid the true Phoenix cycle of 552 years. Remember that 138 times 4 equal 552, a Phoenix cycle. Scholars note that the Church intentionally altered timelines from the original 552-year standard. This was formally imposed in the 11th century, but many countries like Russia didn't even adopt it until the 20th century. And Alexander Del Mar, an author and historian who studied the work of a chronologist named Dr. Edward Greswell, stated that he knew what happened, but refused to elaborate. So if the true start date of Dionysius Exiguus's new calendar was 9 BC, and he identified the start date for this new system based on the 532-year Paschal cycle, then 532 years later from 9 BC is 522 AD. This is the only year in history that both the Nemesis X object and planet Phoenix appeared in the sky at the same time. In the modern BC AD system, you must subtract 1 to account for the missing year 0 between BC and AD, as required by ancient astronomical years. As Jason stated, this proves that the Roman Church invented a calendar to hide the 552-year Phoenix cycle ending in 522 AD. Dionysius Exiguus, who created the Anno Domini calendar in 524 AD, was long dead before the church backdated it and attached a 532-year Paschal cycle. This cycle wasn't widely accepted for another 500 years. The papacy buried the true 552-year Phoenix cycle by backdating the new 532-year Paschal to 9 BC, then changed the dates of all the cataclysmic events that occurred in 522 AD in the record, and inventing the lie that Dionysius Exiguus created the calendar to calculate Easter, which was imposed centuries later. Jason said that all ancient calendars began after major cataclysms. The Julian calendar worked fine for centuries, so there was no need for a new system. As shown by the red arrows, this chart from Jason demonstrates that 522 AD was the only year both the Nemesis X object and planet Phoenix appeared in the sky at the same time. Jason shares countless charts given in presentations on his YouTube channel, Archaix.com, Archaix TV, and on X and BitChute, and his numerous published books showing the history of the world in 138-year periods. Now, fast forwarding to 1549 AD, the images I'm about to show you are selected examples of Phoenix phenomena from a 16th century illuminated manuscript called the Book of Miracles. This first picture illustrates the phenomena of three suns seen in the sky at the same time. The second shows five suns in the sky over the city of Leipzig. And the third image depicts three suns in a fiery red sky over Munster, Germany. It's a beautiful book with images depicting what was described and understood at the time as biblical miracles, flaming comets, multi-headed beasts, and apocalyptic chaos. 138 years later, in 1764 AD, the phenomena written in the historical record states that an astronomer, along with 500,000 Europeans, reported seeing a dark object in the sky. And in India, an earthquake killed an enormous number of people. In Germany, a tornado destroyed and caused much deforestation. In North America, the Philadelphia Bullseye meteor that was said to be larger than the sun had exploded in the sky that year. And in the month of October in Cleves and Rennon, it was described as what appeared to look like blood rains that were falling from the sky for several days. Jason stated that blood rains were a foreshadowing that bad things are to come. 138 years later, in 1902, America became a captured nation. I'll be covering a lot in 1902 because it marks the most recent recorded Phoenix event, and there's an extensive amount of documentation of major historical changes that year, beginning with the process of how America became a captured nation. The Archaix research shows that in 1901, U.S. President McKinley was assassinated and was succeeded by Theodore Roosevelt. In 1902, the United States thus becomes a captured nation. It was a Khazarian Jewish takeover, a major power shift tied to global elite influence. Each time the Phoenix appears, rulership transitions to a new governing family. McKinley's death paves the way for that shift. After the assassination, Roosevelt authorized the U.S. Secret Service to begin protecting presidents, an act symbolizing a major transfer of authority. And as Jason stated, the perpetrators that murdered the real president created the Secret Service to protect themselves, thus resulting in a huge shift in power for the coming years. Around this time, the U.S. government also formed a scientific cabinet to track natural disasters. Jason asks, why begin this record keeping only after 1901, when centuries of strange events were already known? In Freemasonry, the 33rd degree is the highest level of knowledge that a man can obtain. In 1782, Freemasons designed the Great Seal of the United States, showing the Great Pyramid on one side and the Phoenix on the other. By 1902, it was quietly changed to the bald eagle, marking when America became a captured nation. In ancient Egypt, the pyramid-shaped Benben capstone was linked to the Bennu bird, symbolizing rebirth, creation, and the sun. In Greek mythology, the phoenix is immortal, cyclically reborn, and associated with the sun rising from the ashes of its predecessor. Throughout history, the phoenix consistently symbolizes rebirth and creation. Here's a closer look at the Great American Seal in 1782, later changed to the bald eagle in 1902. With hordes of attending Freemasons cheering the inauguration, a new nation of the Phoenix was officially born. A quote from Mark Pinkham from his book Return of the Serpents of Wisdom. A pluribus unum on the ribbon in the mouth of the bird means out of many come one. Some see this as a symbol of the New World Order, while Jason suggests it represents the royal dynastic line of archons, continuing from ancient Egypt through America's founding fathers. The laurel branches symbolize triumph and victory, drawn from Greek myth, where Apollo's pursuit of Daphne ended in her transformation into a laurel tree, a sign of conquest and dominance, a symbol of the elite throwing in our faces their triumph over their new captured nation of America. The arrows in the eagle's claw represent Apollo Pharmakia, who shot plagued arrows at the enemy during the Trojan War. He was associated with medicines and dangerous poisons, also known as the false god of medicine. Below the pyramid in the bottom left image states Novus Ordo Seclorum, which translates as a new order of the ages. And above the pyramid, Annuit Coeptus in Latin means he, God, has approved our undertakings, suggesting divine right and elite entitlement. And notice the repeating 13s, arrows and leaves, berries, stars, stripes, and letters, all echoing Freemasonic symbolism tied to rebirth, transformation, and hidden power. The Great Seal is layered with occult and Freemasonic codes representing control, the hidden lineage of power, and the phoenix cycles of rebirth and renewal. Unusual events happened in 1902 where the entire world stage erupted with new companies, now Fortune 500, new inventions, new texts, new translations of older texts, archaeological discoveries, and more. It was as if everything in the creation had been holding its breath, just waiting for the pass of something big to be clear, so that they could move forward. I love the way Jason worded the statement in his YouTube video, 1902, The Last Days Begin, because it describes exactly how the new government set the stage in preparation for the coming takeover. His research also reveals that in 1902, major shifts began that reshaped America and the world. Paul Warburg arrived from Europe to lay the groundwork for the Rothschild banking dynasty control, preparing the way for the Federal Reserve System and the economic capture of the United States. National parks were established to conceal forbidden discoveries, such as the Grand Canyon caves and hidden sites in Yosemite, under the guise of safety and preservation. Huge park areas were soon made completely off limits to the public, marking the start of restricted access to ancient archaeological zones. The U.S. Lands Reclamation Act was also passed, knowing that each Phoenix event destroys and renews lands. The elite use this cycle to their advantage, including in Antarctica, where the Rothschild Observatory can be seen on Google Earth. And since 1902, nations have been transporting plants and infrastructure to Antarctica. That same year, the 1902 coal strike led to the first instance of federal intervention in private industry, giving the government authority over natural resources. The Rand's Daily Mail was founded in South Africa to create division between Europeans and indigenous people. It was a globalist tool used to weaken nations through controlled media. Andrew Carnegie built hundreds of libraries and funded education, science, and music, allowing the elite to control the information flow. He also shifted music frequency from 432 Hz to 440 Hz, breaking its natural harmony with Earth's 8 Hz resonance. Studies show that 440 Hz can create tension, anxiety, nervousness, aggressive behavior, and other imbalances, while 432 Hz promotes calm and alignment in the human body. By changing global tuning, the elites altered a frequency that affects human emotion and DNA and cellular health, contributing to and potentially the cause of many chronic illnesses and diseases. In 1902, there was lots of new building and construction. The U.S. Steel Corporation, founded by Charles Schwab and J.P. Morgan, began operations in 1902, sparking a boom in city, naval, and military construction across America. Subway expansion was also at its peak, and the New York Stock Exchange building was being redesigned. The Flatiron Building was built in 1901 and officially opened in 1902. The New York Public Library, in the bottom right image, was founded that same year and its cornerstone laid in the month of May, believed to symbolize the chief cornerstone of the Great Pyramid. It remains the largest marble structure ever built in the United States. The White House was fully modernized for President Roosevelt after McKinley's assassination, a move seen as preparation for the new government takeover, involving removal of spying devices and locating tunnels and other hidden systems. Here's some examples of Fortune 500 companies that were founded in 1902. A few known companies are Goodwill, AAA, Texaco, Pepsi-Cola, Target, Walgreens, Nordstrom, Kraft Foods, Pepsi Company, Coca-Cola Bottling Company, Gibson Guitar Company, J.C. Penney, Western Pacific Railroad, and Lamar Advertising. The Archaix research shows that all of these companies merge out of nowhere and are founded in 1902 and controlled by the elite. There were many other significant events that took place in 1902, such as the Dick Act that invalidates all gun control laws. And in 1902, the Archaix research reveals that John Wesley Powell, the director of the Smithsonian Institution, passed away after 23 years of service. During his tenure between 1879 and 1902, countless American artifacts mysteriously disappeared under his supervision. Reports from newspapers, letters, and published books documented numerous complaints about remarkable discoveries that had been sent to the Smithsonian, only for them to vanish without explanation. It was later revealed that Director Powell had purchased decommissioned ships, filled them with these artifacts, and deliberately sank them in the Atlantic Ocean, effectively erasing priceless pieces of American history. In 1902, the Biologics Control Act was enacted, requiring annual government licensing or government control and oversight of all facilities producing or selling vaccines, serums, antitoxins, and related products across state lines. To the right are two anti vaccination advertisements, the top one from the United Kingdom in 1894, both illustrating the existence of concern and the understanding of the dangers of vaccines, even in those times. According to the Archaix research, in May of 1902, divers discovered a metal wheel off the coast of Antikythera, Greece, now known as the Antikythera mechanism. Archaeologists say it came from a shipwreck bound for Rome around 60 to 70 BC during the Third Mithridatic period. The Antikythera is an ancient Greek hand-powered model of the solar system, the oldest known analog computer built to predict the positions of the sun, moon, planets, and eclipses decades in advance, both forward and backward in time. In the 1900s, Zechariah Sitchin, a Jewish author, linked the device to the fall of Jerusalem in 585 BC, while Dr. Derek Dessela Price, who disassembled, rebuilt, and studied the device for 20 years, dated it to 586 BC. However, Jason Breshears suggests that both men are wrong and stated that the device aligns with 583 BC, when Thales of Miletus famously predicted a solar darkening. That same year marks a key point in the 138-year Phoenix cycle, the start of the Pythian calendar, and a time when ancient Greek scholars, like Thales of Miletus, were designing astrolabes to track celestial events. Jason stated that this is the reason why Thales of Miletus was named one of the 7 wise men of Greece. In 1902, Gaston Maspero led excavations at the Giza complex in Sphinx, enforcing strict compartmentalization of discoveries, allowing him full control and censorship of any findings. And according to the Archaix research, in 1902, a young Armenian named George Hakopian visited Mount Ararat in Turkey with his uncle, where they discovered a massive moss-covered ark-like structure embedded in a cliff. The petrified timbers and dimensions match the biblical descriptions of Noah's Ark, resting over 12,000 feet high. Even President Jimmy Carter later diverted Air Force One to view the site. Soon after, the Russian imperial family sent 16 scientists to document the find, but they and their research vanished following the Bolshevik takeover, which also destroyed Christian archives and rewrote history. According to the annals of the kings of Assyria, King Ashurbanipal II recorded that Mount Nisir was the exact location where Utnapishtim's ship came to rest after the Great Flood, aligning with the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Mount Ararat region. In 1902, solar physicist Sir Norman Lockyer presented his research on Stonehenge, revealing that the monument was built for astronomical purposes, whose full purpose remains unknown. He confirms that the heel stone was aligned to mark the month of May and dated the structure's third reconstruction to 1680 BC, exactly 7 years after the Agaian deluge of 1687 BC. In 1903, construction workers on Malta uncovered the Hypogeum, an ancient underground complex dated to 2239 BC, another Phoenix year. Jesuit Father Emmanuel Magri led the excavation, discovering thousands of giant skeletons, some with elongated skulls, alongside pottery and flood deposits. Though he was praised for his expertise and expected to publish a full report, Father Magri mysteriously died in 1907, and all his notes and findings vanished without a trace. According to Wikipedia, legends claim that the site was constructed by giants. However, Jason states that it's like hundreds of people went in there for safety, and then mud came in and buried them and entombed them. He also stated that 1903 is close to 1902, and the Hypogeum in Malta was destroyed by the Phoenix in 2239 BC, insinuating that the giants covered beneath the earth were actually vapor canopy humans who were looking for safety, but instead became entombed as a result of the cataclysmic events caused by the Phoenix phenomenon that occurred in 2239 BC, which is the year of the Great Flood and the year the vapor canopy collapsed. In the month of May, an unknown star appeared in the sky. But what else happened in 1902? Well, Charles Fort, who was alive in 1902, said that 1902 was the other dark age. In his book entitled The Book of the Damned, he wrote, numerous volcanic eruptions occurred all over the world, including red rains, dust veils, and earthquakes. An earthquake in Guatemala destroyed 6 cities and hundreds of villages, plantations, and settlements, killing a conservative estimate of over 20,000 people. An earthquake in El Salvador caused red rains and dust veils, and it was reported that there were earthquake shocks in both France and Spain. In North America, mud fell from the sky in Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, and the sky turned black in France. Numerous colored objects were seen in the sky in the UK. There were meteoric showers in the West Indies, and reports of strange occurrences, and a smoke-like haze obscured the sea from Hong Kong to the Philippines and across the waters to Australia. It was so thick that it impeded navigation, followed by atmospheric fallouts that occurred until 1903 and was considered the greatest fall of matter in the history of Australia. It was reported that blankets of dust and mud covered the ships, forcing men to shovel it off so that their ship didn't capsize. There were numerous accounts of mud and fire falling from the sky, buildings that burnt in Victoria, and red dust and darkness reported in 50 towns in Australia. These phenomena have not been reported in any publications and was said to have been deliberately ignored. Jason stated that in 1902, the catastrophic eruption of Mount Pelée on the island of Martinique killed an estimated 30 to 40,000 people and is evidence of another historical reset. In the French Catholic city of Saint-Pierre, Known then as the Paris of the Caribbean, a Protestant named George Penney visited the area to distribute Bibles. His actions angered the clergy, as at that time individuals were forbidden to possess a Bible, which could only be read in Latin by the church. Penny's life was soon threatened, and he was forced to leave. In March that same year, the Catholic priest organized a public burning of all the Protestant Bibles. On Easter Sunday, the same priest sacrificed a pig, tied it to a Protestant Bible, and dragged it through the streets of Saint Pierre. That same night, Mount Pelée, thought to be an extinct volcano, began smoking. And when it erupted, the explosion was so violent that it capsized ships in the harbor, and the searing gases instantly incinerated St. Pierre, killing nearly all its inhabitants, destroying ships, buildings, and surrounding villages. Note at that time only white residents were officially counted in population records, and the sole survivor, named Luher Silberus, had been imprisoned in an underground dungeon awaiting execution. 4 days later, without food or water, as crews cleared the bodies, he was found alive. Local authorities declared if the only man sentenced to die in Saint Pierre survived these horrors, then it must be by God's will. So they let him go. Later studies suggested that ambient radiation from the eruption on Martinique caused unusual biological effects. Plants grew abnormally large, and 2 scientists recorded themselves growing over 2 inches taller. In one of his many YouTube videos covering 1902, Jason reads from the book Martinique, Flood and Fire and Burning Rain. Several hundred miles around Martinique on May 7th, before the eruption, the crew of the ship Nordby, sailing from Sicily, report that the sea became unusually hot to the extreme that the men removed clothes. The men on deck were becoming alarmed. Some imagines that the pitch in the seams of the ship softened, and then suddenly the whole ship dropped about 4 feet in the water, and huge waves rose up around the ship and went in all different directions, but there was no wind. Then something went wrong with the sun. The sun grew red, and then dark red, and then later in the afternoon, the sun disappeared while it was supposed to be in the sky. The day got so dark, one could not see from one end of the ship to the other in the darkness. Sheets of lightning lit up the sea, and we saw no thunder, and there was no wind. In the lightning flashes, the horrified sailors watched as hundreds of sharks appeared to be leaping out of the water. Men prayed, panicked, and some were openly claiming that this was the last day. Even the officers of the ship began to think the world was coming to an end. The ordeal lasted over 6 hours. On May 8th, 1902, the next day, Mount Pelée exploded, killing everyone in Saint Pierre. Hearing Jason tell this story on YouTube, I was instantly reminded of Pirates of the Caribbean. In The Curse of the Black Pearl, the At World's End part of the movie, the world turns upside down. Up is down, and down is up. A chaotic inversion of reality. Amid the swirling chaos, Captain Jack Sparrow realizes the secret. To navigate the madness, he must turn the ship upside down. Only then does the world right itself, and the path to the treasure is revealed, as if the very laws of nature bend to cunning and insight. In Dead Man's Chest, the kraken emerges from the depths, its massive tentacles encircling the ship, dragging it relentlessly into the abyss. Echoing the fury of the sea that swallowed Martinique, where sailors' tales spoke of waves that rose like mountains and storms that churned with a life of their own. In Greek mythology, the kraken is the giant sea creature with tentacles that can sink ships and destroy cities. Some myths say Greek gods sent it to destroy cities, while others link the legends to Iceland's volcanic waters, where bubbling gas and rising toxic vapors can churn the sea. There's a quote in the 1981 movie Clash of the Titans that states, "The Kraken is the end of us, a colossal elemental beast. Even the gods fear it." I don't know about you guys, but this sounds awfully like the phoenix to me. There are all kinds of phoenix phenomena and symbolism in these movies. The Archaix research shows us examples of the countless measurements inside the Great Pyramid that are divisible by 138. These calculations are the scientifically accepted measurements done by Sir Flinders Petrie and are used by Egyptologists today. The Great Pyramid has been proven to be a model of the Earth itself, but within the 138-year measurements has encoded the entire history of the world that reveals major historical events from the past and the future, therefore making it a holographic calendar. Jason believes that the numerous mathematically precise measurements in the Great Pyramid that are divisible by 138 is the chief message. There are such a large number of examples that it is beyond coincidence. In ancient times, the Phoenix, Enoch, and the Great Pyramid are all interrelated in literature, going back thousands of years. There are multiple measurements in the pyramid that indicate that the year 1902 AD is the year 5796 Anno Mundi. The Great Pyramid is a 3D calendar that demonstrates multitudes of calendars that are embedded in its measurements. And finally, the Great Pyramid is prophecy in stone. As noted, the interior measurements of the Great Pyramid all align with multiples of 138 highlighted in the rectangles. Jason measured from the king's chamber floor to the base stone, and then to the pyramid's base, which is 1,656 plus 34 inches, and added the subterranean level of 1,070 inches, totaling 2,760. He then added the descending passage, 3,036 inches, plus the rectilinear triangle measurements to arrive at 5796, which converts to 1902. Remember, from the previous slide, The 5796 Anno Mundi is 1902 AD. And what happened in 1902? The most recent Phoenix event in recorded history. Now, adding 138 to 1902 predicts the next Phoenix event in 2040. Archaix.com presents numerous graphs demonstrating how the Great Pyramid's interior encodes multiple calendars that align with actual historical events. For this presentation, we can conclude that the pyramid's design points to the year 5796 Anno Mundi, equivalent to 1902 Anno Domini, which is identified as the foundational year, marking the beginning of the countdown to the return of the chief cornerstone. This is the subterranean level of the Great Pyramid that shows another example of the monument's interior measurements that are divisible by 138. And a chart demonstrating interior dimensions resulting in year 5796, which is 1902. As mentioned, there are hundreds of these charts available on the Archaix.com website, explained in more detail in YouTube videos, Archaix TV, and Jason's published books. In this illustration found on the Archaix website, the Great Pyramid has exactly 203 exterior levels. According to Jason's research, while the interior encodes historical years counting down to 1902 AD, a year divisible by 138 when converted to 5796 Anno Mundi, the exterior represents an ascending countdown from the foundation, which represents 1902, to the summit. The year 1902 holds special significance, marking the prophetic countdown to the return of the chief cornerstone, the missing capstone at the pyramid's apex. This event symbolizes the gathering or departure of a group of people chosen by God, as described in the book of Revelation. When this final stone is set in place upon the 204th level, the Great Pyramid will be complete. It is the stone the builders rejected, the chief cornerstone. In Revelation 3:12, it is written, "He that overcometh, I will make him a pillar in the temple of my God, and he shall go out no more. And I will write upon him the name of my God." According to Jason, the 144,000 represent those definitively chosen and sealed by God, individuals who have successfully overcome and reached a state of divine realization. Jason explains that the original term for pyramid actually meant pillar. Until roughly 700 years ago, the Great Pyramid was encased in a 100-inch thick layer of white stone designed to shield it from the elements. Tradition holds that the 144,000 stones comprising the Great Pyramid symbolize souls or beings who have overcome, individuals who, according to biblical interpretation, have attained a higher level of spiritual enlightenment and been chosen by God. This journey of transcendence, departing the physical world or the exodus, represents the passage to a higher plane of spiritual growth. In the book of Revelation, this is described as those who are saved. The white robe, then, symbolizes a new state of being, a fresh incarnation, or as Jason calls it, a new avatar. We are spiritual entities composed of pure energy, multidimensional beings who are not of this earth, but who have chosen this incarnation to learn, grow, and evolve through the human experience. The white robe symbolizes a new avatar for those who have completed their experience within this construct and are ready to advance to the next stage of spiritual evolution, whatever form that may take. It is not meant for use in this world, but rather for the journey that follows, signifying that the individual has reached a profound level of spiritual growth and enlightenment. This is the deeper message behind the story of Exodus, a prophecy written in stone. In conclusion, the year 1902 marks the beginning of the countdown to the Exodus in 2106, the prophetic return of the chief cornerstone. This connection is revealed through the 203 levels of the Great Pyramid, with the 204th stone representing the final capstone, the chief cornerstone sealed by God. The very event symbolized as the Exodus in Revelation 3:12, because 1902 plus 204 equal 2106. Now, the Great Pyramid is also telling us to pay attention to the year 2040. So we just learned that the Great Pyramid consists of 203 levels, but is currently missing one component, the capstone, also known as the chief cornerstone. Remember that if the capstone was set in place, it would be the 204th level of the Great Pyramid, finalizing its completion. In ancient times, a tetractys was the arrangement of 10 dots that formed a pyramid. As you can see, there are a total of 10 dots in the pyramid shown. Well, there are 4 slopes on the Great Pyramid that are 51 degrees, and 51 times 4 is 204, but 204 times the tetractys, which represents the pyramid itself, is 2040. Here's another one of Jason's charts showing that 2 different vertical distance in the Great Pyramid equal the year 2040. Again, 2 different distances in the rectilinear measurements coming from different areas of the pyramid, resulting in 2040. And another showing that the year 5934 Anno Mundi is the year 2040 Anno Domini. Though the Great Pyramid tells the story of the Exodus found in the Old Testament, it holds far more within its sacred geometry. Hidden deep in its rectilinear measurements are countless dimensions that reveal the 138-year pattern of the Phoenix, along with encoded timelines of world history, such as 1902, 2040, and 2106, unlike any monument on Earth. This knowledge was deliberately preserved, concealed within stone, awaiting the generation of the last days, those, like Jason Breshears, destined to decode its divine message. Jason reveals that the 138-inch intervals and the precise rectilinear measurements, accurate to 1,000th of an inch, within the Great Pyramid are not random. Their purpose, he asserts, is linked directly to the Phoenix phenomenon, a cyclical event occurring every 138 years within our holographic reality. Each cycle brings great change, altering conditions of life, reshaping civilizations, shifting the stars, and veiling history beneath layers of catastrophe, disappearance, and renewal. The phoenix itself is not a myth, but a technologically advanced construct woven into the very framework of this world. It's indefinite that there is a linear projection into a series of 138 multiples, which we find in the Great Pyramid. There have been numerous books published on the Great Pyramid showing all the different constants in multiple dimensions of arithmetic inside of it, but no one has come forward and given an explanation as to why this was done in denominations of 138, with the exception of the Archaix research. The Great Pyramid was conceived as a vessel of knowledge, an indestructible archive preserving the past, present, and future. It was specifically engineered to endure the Great Flood foreseen by its architect, so that its message might survive the ages. As Jason stated, one must ask themselves, what information could be so important to the human race that such a massive architectural project not only be built and preserved through countless generations, but also one in which there's so much misinformation released about it, and yet it possesses information that is critical for the understanding of humanity. Within its eternal design lies a three-dimensional calendar encoding countless cycles and epochs. The Great Pyramid is not merely a monument, it is prophecy in stone, a message written for the awakening of mankind. The ancient Aryans thought that God works through mathematics. They divided the heavens into 36 constellations, numbered 1 through 36, and inscribed these sacred numbers upon amulets believed to hold divine power and protection for those who wore them. Within the magic square, the sum of 1 through 36 equals 666, the grand number. Furthermore, each horizontal and vertical line equals 111, aligning again to 666. The Babylonians believed numbers held power over the gods, assigning each deity a number to invoke influence over them. The 36 supreme gods include the sun god, number 1, the moon goddess, 2, and 3 through 36 were their children, representing the stars and constellations. The sum, 666, was attributed to the ruler and source of all divine power and father of the gods 1 through 36. In Trail of the Serpent by Merle Vance, it is revealed that in the astrological religion of ancient Babylon, each god was assigned a sacred number in place of their name. These numbers denoted each god's rank and power amongst the celestial hierarchy. The Babylonians divided the 12 houses of the zodiac into 3 parts, forming 36 divisions in total. Each of the 36 constellations was ruled by a god who governed one of the 36 chambers of the zodiac. The soul of the departed were believed to ascend and dwell amongst these stars. These 36 rulers were called decans, because each of the 12 zodiac signs was divided into 3 decans of 10 degrees each, covering a 10-day period. 10 days times 3 equals 30, the number of days in a month. And 30 days times 12 zodiacs equal 360, the number of days in a calendar year in ancient times. To the Babylonians, the number seven was sacred, representing the seven visible planets: the moon, Mercury, Venus, the sun, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. These celestial bodies guided their calendar, their worship, and their sense of time, including the 7-day week. The seven planets, symbolized as the seven-headed celestial dragon, were believed to rule over all 36 decans and thus the 360-day year of the ancient world, with the sun reigning supreme as father of the gods. Since the sum of the numbers 1 through 36 equals 666, this number became known as the grand number of the sun, the divine total representing the God who rules them all, and I believe is the number that signifies the phoenix. These magic squares, worn as amulets, were not mere ornaments. They were designed with purpose and concealed the mark of the beast. Because they contained the numerical symbols of their gods, they were thought to hold power to ward off evil or divine wrath. The ancients feared their gods deeply, believing a god could strike them down without warning. They crafted the amulets engraved with a 6x6 matrix to symbolize the protection of the sun god, while honoring the supreme creator of the cosmos, the grand number 666, the father of all gods. Therefore, it's no coincidence that the phoenix is depicted in Revelation 12:3 as the seven-headed dragon, the very being feared by both gods and men. Then another sign appeared in the heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon its head. Thus we can conclude that the 7 heads or crowns represent the 7 ruling planets in the heaven. The 10 horns correspond to the 10 decans that each consists of 3 parts within each of the 12 zodiac signs, forming the 36 constellations. 12 times 3 is 36. And that the enormous red dragon, crowned and 7-headed, is none other than the phoenix itself. The amulets worn by these ancients, inscribed with these mathematical squares, were more than symbols of faith. They were reminders of the phoenix cycles, of the God feared even by the gods, the God of all gods, bringer of destruction and rebirth, and, as echoed in Clash of the Titans, a colossal elemental beast. Even the gods feared it. And this is why the number 666, known as the grand number of the cosmos and father to the sun god, number 1, in the ancient magic square, was later vilified by the papacy after the Roman Church became the state religion of the empire. From that point on, this sacred mathematical symbol was branded as heresy, and merely possessing such a diagram could condemn one to death by fire at the stake. Their souls offered as a warning to all those who dare honor the secrets of the cosmos. Depicted is the Great Meteorological Chart by Matthew the Elder, created in 1623, a masterwork renowned for its exquisite precision and depth of detail. It stands as a remarkable reflection of 17th century understanding regarding the mysteries of meteorological phenomena. At the summit of the chart, God is depicted enthroned amongst a host of angels, revealed here as the direct God of the sun, ruling the heavens above. To the left and right of this symbol are the astrological mechanisms that govern the world, mathematical systems of such precision that they could not arise naturally by chance. Amongst these is the 138-year Phoenix periodicity, the divine rhythm we've already discussed. Within the Great Dome, each semicircular layer portrays a hierarchy of meteorological wonders. The first layer depicts various forms of comets, followed by clouds and their accompanying phenomena, whirlwinds, tornadoes, rains of blood, stones, and frogs, culminating in lightning and hail descending from the heavens. The next concentric layer reveals fiery exhalations and the 12 winds, each representing a distinct force moving across creation. On the lower left, a scroll lists meteors sent for man's benefit, while on the lower right appears a contrast list, those sent to chastise mankind. A clear boundary divides these celestial phenomena from the realm of earth below, a separation between two worlds. Here, man is shown asleep, dwelling in a dream state. Across this veil, a Latin ribbon bears the words, "Man is the perfection and end of all the creatures of the world." Jason interprets this to mean that the human body, the avatar, is of the earth, unconscious to the greater forces surrounding it, bound within the dream construct rather than awakened to truth. Yet because man was created in the image of God, he carries with him the divine spark, the potential to awaken and to remember and to recognize his unity with the greater whole. Through this awakening, the oversoul becomes aware and protected from the chaos of the lower world. In a 2024 interview with Andre Ducom, titled The Rise of Transhumanism, do we have the wisdom to not forget what makes us human? Greg Braden revealed a profound truth, and I quote, "The atomic mass of the elements of our DNA correlates to the letters of the ancient alphabets." And here's the beautiful thing. The message that it reveals is exactly the same in all four of the core languages. In Arabic, the same in Hebrew, the same in cuneiform, and the same in Sanskrit, and probably other languages. So when we make that substitution, and when you use that numeric link, and literally into the DNA basis, cytosine, thymine, guanine, and adenine, when you go into those bases and you make those substitutions, it actually spells out the answer to probably the oldest question that we've ever asked. When we say, "Who are we?" The translation of the first layer in the DNA, the introduction of every cell in our body reads exactly the same. And this isn't a metaphor. It literally reads the words, "God eternal within the body." Astonishingly, within the 50 trillion cells of the human body, the first layer of every cell, without exception, proclaims the same truth: God eternal within the body. Jason shows us in one of his videos, image that reveals with striking clarity the veil that divides our mortal world from the Phoenix phenomena, that realm existing beyond the boundaries of our constructed reality. Here, a man is shown in sacred pursuit, yearning for truth and divine understanding. He leans forward, thrusting his head and hands beyond the veil, breaching the limits of illusion to behold the mysteries that lie outside the world of men. In that act, he acknowledges the truth that there are forces and elements beyond the confines of our waking dream, unseen, yet ever present. Shown are 3 scientific articles from the historical record that show various celestial phenomena from the 16th century. According to the Archaix research, Charles Fort wrote that throughout ancient history, it was often described that superconstructions appeared in the sky while simultaneously executing these weather related phenomena like gigantic computer systems or the weather control devices that we know exist today, and that they could have been designed by an ancient race that may no longer exist. Jason also said that it's also suggested that there seems to be certain times in which the hologram we call our sky failed and allowed people to see the real technology in the sky that had been previously hidden. In 200 BC, the Greek astronomer Hipparchus invented the armillary sphere, a tool designed to map how the heavens and the stars moved around the Earth. Long before the telescope, it served as the primary instrument for astronomers to determine celestial positions. On the left is a woodcut from 1502, illustrating our world as a construct, surrounded by a framework of rings and watched over by a celestial goddess. On the right, a woodcut from 1559. The figure of Atlas was shown supporting the armillary sphere, symbolizing his burden of holding up the heavens. The idea is that the ancients understood that something mysterious and mathematical and intelligent exists beyond our world and the construct we inhabit. Shown is an engraving from 1654 entitled Alchemy Mountain. The top ring depicts an astrological calendar marked by the 12 signs of the zodiac, each aligned with its corresponding alchemical element. In each corner are the 4 elements: earth, air, fire, and water, representing the foundational forces of creation and existence. The mountain below reveals that knowledge, architecture, and humanity are preserved beneath the earth, a symbol that the elite dwell in safety and luxury underground, hidden from the world above. While the phoenix bird rises above, overseeing all. Etched in Latin along the steps of the mountain are alchemical inscriptions that represent the 7 sacred transformations leading towards spiritual enlightenment. To reach enlightenment, man must ascend the mountain, moving through 7 symbolic stages, each one a step towards awakening. There are 7 people representing 7 steps to get to the top of the mountain. And the number 7 embodies the 7 planets, the 7 inner transformations, and the completion of the divine process, the union of self-awareness, wisdom, and perfection. On the left side of the mountain, ascending upward, appear Venus, a woman holding a burning heart and mirror, Mars, a warrior clad in armor, bearing sword and shield, and at the top left, the sun portrayed as a regal figure with a scepter in hand, forming the V-shaped gesture, the Freemasonic 30-degree symbol, denoting celestial alignment. The sun points towards the zodiac sphere 12, signaling the observer to pay attention to the heavens. At the summit, a male figure crowned with a winged helmet and winged ankles stands upon a hexagon, the ancient emblem of Mercury, the bridge between heaven and earth, life and death. In alchemy, the hexagon represents the seat of the soul, the sacred connection between God and man. At the base of the mountain, humanity is shown blind to truth, lost within illusion. Yet truth awaits below for those willing to descend into the depths and seek it beneath the mountain, down the rabbit hole of hidden knowledge. This 17th century engraving depicts a clear division between the above and below, marking two distinct realms. The giant sun above represents the one mind, the moment of full consciousness achieved through meditation. Three solar symbols amongst the angels represent the Holy Trinity: sulfur, Mercury, and salt, or Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, hidden in matter. In the Emerald Tablet, this trinity is the one mind, illustrating alchemical transformation, where meditation turns matter into energy. The celestial realms above reflect the unifying principles governed by astrology. A pyramid at the center of concentric spheres represents the precise mathematical programs of astrology, showing that we live in a construct governed by the zodiac, including birds, dragons, and the phoenix, all below the line in the world of men. At the bottom center, Father Time holds two starry hatchets, symbolizing day and night, representing discernment and separation. A man and woman are chained to God, symbolizing that human bodies are avatars, housing souls connected to the Oversoul. The main idea is that the construct is governed by polarities, such as day and night, fire and water, and yin and yang. But Jason believes that the key to understanding and unlocking the construct itself is found in the cleverly hidden heptagrams found at the feet of the man and the lion. These seven-pointed stars produce the pyramid angle in geometry and represent the keeping of time, the 7 days of the week, and the 7 world epochs. They link to the sun, held by the man and lion, forming a perfect triangle, with the word phoenix written at its center, and a depiction of the phoenix right below its name. Jason notes that this engraving impressively shows the Great Pyramid, the keeping of the calendar directly related to man, the phoenix, and the astrological cycles above, all existing together and proving that humans safely live in a construct because they are tethered to God. He states that the wisdom demonstrated in this work is that only the avatars of men and women are subject to the polarities of the world. The immortal spirit within the body belong outside the construct, where it is safe and purified, resulting in the immortal, permanently enlightened, and wholly incarnated state of consciousness. This is our perfected state of being and ultimate purpose in this journey we call life. Freemason ideas came from alchemical iconography. These two works demonstrate that the Freemasons' all-seeing eye symbolized the phoenix bird, an omnipotent god. In Egyptian mythology, the all-seeing eye is a symbolic representation of the gods Horus, who is god of the sky, and Ra, the sun god. But connected to Ra, it meant power and destruction. And in Greek mythology, it was referred to as the evil eye, which was often depicted in Greek art and literature as a symbol of both fear and reverence. This is why it was common for Egyptian rulers to have the symbol of the eye on their jewelry, much like the magic square, because they both symbolized protection from the power and destruction of the phoenix. The Archaix data shows that in 1666, during the Great Fire of London, both the city and the old cathedral were reduced to ashes. This marked the fourth time a church had been built on that site. Historical records dating back to 604 AD indicate that a church or cathedral had always stood at this location. In 1675, the city launched a major rebuilding effort, culminating in the construction of St. Paul's Cathedral. During the construction, Sir Christopher Wren discovered writings on an old stone. When he cleaned it, the inscription was translated to mean, "I will rise again." Reports suggested the stone had originally been part of an ancient gravestone. However, the reason why this phoenix relief is found so prominently displayed on the cathedral's southern entrance is because right below the phoenix relief is the Latin word resurgam, which means "I shall rise again." The Archaix research discloses in several YouTube videos that the hidden measurements inside the Cathedral of St. Paul's in London actually reveals its own destruction in the year 2040. In the book of Revelation, it is the phoenix that heralds the end of the world. The sixth seal of the apocalypse, described in Revelation 6:12-17, portrays a cataclysmic upheaval, a terrible earthquake, the sun turning black, the moon reddening like blood, stars falling from the heavens, the sky vanishing, and humankind cowering in terror, hiding from the impending wrath of God. In one of his final works, Nostradamus states, "The senseless people will be reawakened by Jesus from their illusions. 6 lenses in a telescope, and I have a true key, which is even more important to pass down. I see coming in my dreams heavy legends, receiving the wave of the sun. The law of the wolves is there to lay blame when it is foreseen that the whole Western world will die. I shall know different times." Nostradamus warns us that the idea of Jesus coming to save man is an illusion. According to Christ's original Gnostic teachings, long before the church alterations, man must save himself by awakening through spiritual growth and an enlightenment. Without this inner awakening, the soul is reincarnated back into the world, forced to repeat its journey over and over. In Norse mythology, the phoenix is depicted as a giant wolf in the sky devouring the sun. Nostradamus is signaling the importance of astrology, urging us to pay close attention to the celestial cycles that shape our world and destiny. Found in a secret room in an Australian library, these prophecies by Mother Shipton were written by hand and snuck out of the library in the 1970s. However, the Australian government denied they ever existed. Here are a few verses. "A fiery dragon will cross the sky 6 times before this earth shall die. For 7 days and 7 nights, man will watch this awesome sight. The tides will rise beyond their ken to bite away the shores, and then the mountains will begin to roar, and earthquakes split the plain to shore, and flooding waters rushing in will flood the lands with such a din that mankind cowers in muddy fin and snarls about his fellow men." And when the dragon's tail is gone, man forgets and smiles and carries on. And they will send the dragon back to light the sky. His tail will crack. The ocean rise to mount the shore, and lands will crack and rend anew. You think it's strange? It will come true. Who survives this and then begin the human race again. And those that live will ever fear the dragon's tail from many year. But time erases memory. You think it's strange, but it'll be. A quote from Archaix. The oldest recorded beliefs held that the night sky was a beautiful illusion hiding a devouring red dragon. The history of the world explains exactly why they believed this. A King James Bible verse. And it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord God, that I will make the sun go down at noon, and I will darken the earth in the clear day. From Joel 2:32. The sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood, before the great and terrible day of the Lord come. The sixth seal of the apocalypse. There was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. Every mountain and island were removed out of their places. In 2009, Jason released his groundbreaking work, When the Sun Darkens, unveiling the hidden arithmetic that exposes one of modern academia's greatest deceptions, the false prophecy of 2012. He reveals that the Maya long count never ended, for scholars had corrupted the ancient system by imposing a 365.25 day year upon a chronology that the ancients themselves built upon the sacred 360-day cycle, the true measure of time before the great alteration by the papacy in the 6th century. Across his writings and countless recordings, Jason has shown again and again that this era was no accident. It was part of a grand illusion meant to keep humanity asleep. And as he declares, the real apocalypse will not begin until after the Phoenix year of 2040. Everything that unfolds before then is orchestrated, a stage set by the elite. A chilling reminder that what many believed was the end was only the beginning. All the evidence and historical records presented lead to one unmistakable conclusion. In the year 2040, during the month of May, the world will once again face the Phoenix event. The sun will darken. The Earth's crust will shift, displacing continents and tearing open the land. The oceans will rise and slip their basins, swallowing coastlines and entire civilizations. The great cities of New York and London and countless others will be dragged beneath the sea. Volcanoes will awaken across the world. Continental earthquakes and mudfloods will ravage the surface. There will be red rains and cosmic dust fallout. This is the fulfillment of the sixth seal of the apocalypse, the long-awaited moment of divine reckoning. It is the sixth sky dragon of Mother Shipton's prophecies. It is the Fenrir wolf of Norse myth who devours the sun and moon at Ragnarok, the day of darkness, when fire and flood consume the world. It is the black sun spoken of by the Hopi elders. It is acknowledged in the 33rd degree of Freemasonry, the hidden wisdom of the initiate. And the year 2040 is exactly 138 years prior to the final year of 2178, which is the collapse of the simulacron itself. For when the phoenix rises, it begins the countdown to the end of all illusion. A few quotes from Jason Breshears. There are profound patterns that the phoenix phenomenon shows us throughout history. This patterning of our world history is proof that we live inside a construct. This beautiful holography is basically run by two opposing forces that seem to be working in tandem. One of them is order, and the other one is the induction of chaos. The phoenix maintains the order. It is the keeper of the calendar. The archons, who are the lords of time, are influencing people all around the world and cultures to create different timekeeping systems, to erase the timelines of these cataclysmic events, and to forget where they are in the chronology. From the very beginning, the end was fixed. Phoenix keeps the calendar. It is not only the keeper of order, but seems to counter the setbacks and destruction, confusion and chaos, both influenced and caused by the elite. The Phoenix states reveal patterns that cannot be true, meaning they cannot exist in nature, but are there. They are too mathematically precise, which proves that we are living in a construct. The Archaix data suggests that the phoenix is an actual object hidden in the sky. It has revealed itself throughout history. In ancient times, it was known as the phoenix. It is approaching perihelion. Archaix data shows that the phoenix is located at 23.5 degrees north of the ecliptic and is presently in descending mode on May 15th, 2040. It will return on May 16th, and when it does, our world will be a very different place. The phoenix phenomenon is better understood by watching Jason Breshears' YouTube videos or subscribing to Archaix TV, visiting archaix.com or his other platforms such as X and BitChute, and by reading his published books. A short list of his published works relating to this topic include When the Sun Darkens, The Lost Scriptures of Giza, Nostradamus and the Planets of the Apocalypse, Anunnaki Homeworld, Shocking Secrets of Antiquity. I hope this presentation has stirred something deep within you, a remembrance long buried. For the message of the phoenix is not merely one of death and destruction. It is a revelation of renewal, a sacred truth that the ancients once knew, but time and those who feared our awakening sought to conceal. The phoenix teaches that all things must pass through fire to be made new. It is the balancing of worlds, the purging of illusion, the release of what no longer serves, so that what is eternal within us may rise once more. The old civilizations, from Egypt to the Maya, from the Norse to the Hopi, all left us fragments of the same wisdom, that cycles of darkness are followed by light, and that within every ending lies the seed of divine rebirth. Yet through ages of distortion and control, this knowledge was hidden, its symbols scattered, its truth veiled behind myth and dogma. But the time of remembering is upon us. The veils are thinning, the fire returns, and now this knowledge calls to you not to fear, but to awaken. For within the infinite field, countless extraordinary futures already exist, waiting for those with eyes to see and hearts to know. The path is yours to walk. Explore the journey of your soul. Uncover the depths of who you truly are and awaken to the limitless power you carry as an immortal being. Walk it with courage. Walk it with grace. Walk it as one who remembers. Rise as the ancients rose before you. Embrace the fire that transforms. For you both the flame and the reborn light. Let the old fall away and let the new rise from its ashes. Become the transformation, the rebirth, the living phoenix. For within you lies the eternal spark of the divine, waiting to ignite, waiting to illuminate the world once more. Feel free to like this video and share it with anyone you think might find inspiration, guidance, or value in its message. Thank you for watching, and until we meet again, stay curious and ask questions.